The death of Moses. Well, here we are at the end of all these wonderful stories about the life of Moses. I've enjoyed going through them with you, story by story. As you look at this situation, you have Moses and Joshua right now, right between the two. God gave Israel these two leaders that oversaw all the tribes of Israel. After Joshua dies, the people will be in the land and the tribes will act independent of one another with judges that come along. And this will be true until the time when the kings rule over them. Why did God give these two men to this nation at this crucial time? Well, with Moses, he was the lawgiver. That's what the people needed. They needed someone to instruct them, give them the law, and then tell them how they could live by it. They had been slaves, and they had overseers that made sure they did what they were supposed to do. Now they needed to have the laws in their heart so they could live with God. Well, you have Joshua, who was not a lawgiver, but he was a commanding officer. He was a general. That's what the people needed. They were going to go into the land, and they needed marching orders to conquer the land. Another big difference between these two men is that Moses talked with God face to face. He had a situation or a problem or a decision to make. He talked with God. God talked to him. But with Joshua, God says to Moses, tell Joshua that if he has a problem, go talk to the high priest. And the high priest will give him advice. One of the things that Moses told Joshua to do when he got into the land at the appropriate time is go to the area of Shechem. And there would be Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. And they were to rewrite the law of God there and make one of the mountains, Mount Gerizim, the mountain of blessing, and the other one, the mount of curses. In the valley between those two mountains is a well. It was dug by Jacob himself. Years later, Jesus would sit on that well and talk to the Samaritan woman. Well, when the time came for Moses to go die, he had to leave the plain of Moab and go up Mount Nebo. That was not just a short little trip. I mean, the plain where they were at is about 2,500 feet below sea level. He had to climb out of that and then go on top of a mountain which is about 2,700 feet above sea level. I've been there, and it's a beautiful place. You can't see all of Israel like what the scripture says. So God had to work a miracle so that Moses could see the entire land. As you're standing there looking out over the Jordan Valley, and the Dead Sea's off to one side and Jericho's off the other, right straight across is another mountain range actually, but right there is Mount Moriah. That's where Jerusalem is at. The mountains are about the same height. Mount Nebo is about 150 feet higher, but you're right straight across from the city of God. Well, years later, they would say that there's coming a person that will be just like Moses. When Jesus came, the big discussion is, are you the one? Is this the one who has come that will be like Moses? It's interesting that as you look at the life of Moses, you see two things about him. He provided them manna or bread in the wilderness, and he talked with God face to face. When they were talking with Jesus, the people focused on the bread that they got every day. Shouldn't you be feeding us bread all the time? And what they should have been focused on is Jesus was one who talked with God face to face. We'll come back when we give you more insights on the story.